it is again called air hunger, that is increased dyspnea. And when partial rate of carbon dioxide is like between 80 and 100, the person will be lethargic, semi-comatized, means almost like he was semi-coma, and anesthesia also sometimes lead to death. But if the carbon dioxide values are very high, like 120 to 150, excess carbon dioxide now depress the respiration rather than stimulating it, causing viscous circles. So the viscous circles are formed whenever partial pressure of carbon dioxide is very high. So what is there in that? The viscous circle in turn will increase more carbon dioxide, it will decrease the respiration, it will increase the carbon dioxide a lot, culminating rapidly in respiratory death. So this is how, if the carbon dioxide excess like 120 to 150, for sure it will lead to death because of viscous cycles. So let us see dyspnea. Dyspnea, it's breath, like shortness of breath. So mental anguish means it is also related with the central nervous system with inability to ventilate enough to satisfy. It is called air hunger. It's like we're not able to satisfy with that short air. We need more air. So why it is caused due to abnormal respiratory gases and fluids like hypercapnia or hypoxia. Yeah, they also cause dyspnea, or work that respiratory muscle to provide ventilation. Like if the workload is also very high for respiration, it may lead to dyspnea. And also state of mind. Sometimes in some kind of people they have some psychiatric problems, like they'll be having normal respiration, but they'll think of always they breathe, and they'll they have low respiration. So that kind of people is called neurogenic dyspnea or emotional dyspnea, abnormal state of mind, but their breathing is normal, but they just think like their breathing is abnormal. Even now, even in normal persons, if you think of breathing, you like, yeah, something breathing, you'll feel about that. But in these people, they're like psychotic, they feel like even in normal they feel their breath is not normal. So let us see sleep apnea. So first we need to understand what is apnea, and let us see this sleep apnea. So apnea is absence of spontaneous breathing, means the person for the survival, he should have the spontaneous breathing, at the same time spontaneous beating of heart, right? So here in this kind of people, they have some like they're breaking this intermittent breathing. So it lasts but only for 10 seconds, of course, otherwise the person may die. So this lasts for 10 seconds or longer, 300 to 500 times each night. It is mainly caused by obstruction of upper airway, especially the pharynx, or impaired central nervous system respiratory tract. So here also we have two causes. The first one is lot of obstruction in pharynx, and second one is impaired CNS respiratory tract. So first let us see the obstructive sleep apnea, that is mainly in pharynx by blockage of upper airway. Some have narrow pharynx already. So during relaxation, especially during expiration, that muscles in sleep cause pharynx to completely close, so air can't flow into the lungs, and have loud snoring and labored breathing. But this loud snoring is also not continuous. It is stopped suddenly for few minutes, a few seconds by silentness, where there is no breathing because of completely decreased partial pressure of oxygen and increased partial pressure of carbon dioxide, which stimulate the respiration later, and the sudden breathing again starts. That is again giving the loud snores. So this is like intermittent. At the starting, they have loud snoring, and suddenly they'll become silent because of no breathing occurs because of less oxygen. But later, because of higher carbon dioxide, it stimulates the respiration, so suddenly again they'll start this loud snort. So like this, their cycle will be one loud sound, silent, again loud snort. So this results in fragmented restless sleep, because as these people are working lot on respiration during night, they'll not have nice sleep. So therefore excessive daytime drowsiness. So these people are like always drowsy in the daytime, and also they're having higher sympathetic activity, higher heart rate, because like they're in tension, they're not sleeping properly, so their sleep cycles are disturbed. So the sympathetic activity will be very high, the heart rate will be very high, and even the pulmonary and systemic blood pressures are very high. So they're like, you can understand, if they're having high blood pressures, means they're always at elevated risk of cardiovascular diseases. So actually this occurs most commonly in older people, and also in obese people. They have higher fat in pharynx or any nasal obstruction, and even they have large tongue or enlarged tonsils or different shapes of palate. So all this may be the reasons. Because of all these conditions, there is higher resistance to the flow of air to the lungs during inspiration, and the most common treatment for them is to surgery, is just to remove the excess fat at the back of the throat, that is uvulopalatopharyngealoplasty, or remove the enlarged tonsils or adenoids, or create opening of trachea, that is tracheostomy, to bypass the obstructed airway during sleep. Or also you can do nasal ventilation with continuous positive airway pressure. This is called CPAP. So this all kinds of treatment can help the sleep apnea patients so that they can sleep happily during night, so that later their sympathetic activity, heart rate, everything will come to normal, and even their blood pressures may be coming to normal, so that the risk of getting severe cardiac uh, problems will be decreased. As we said, there is other type of sleep apnea, that is central sleep apnea. So this is when the neural drive to the respiratory muscles is transiently abolished or stopped. So when the central nervous system is not giving any impulse or stimulation to ventilatory muscles, what happens? The causes are damage of central respiratory center or abnormal respiratory neuromuscular apparatus. So there is decreased ventilation when they awake, and although they are fully capable of normal voluntary breathing, in sleep, the ventilation worsened, resulting frequent episodes of apnea that decrease the partial pressure of carbon dioxide and even oxygen. So until the critical level is reached that stimulates respiration. So all this causes restless sleep. People with this are sensitive to even the small doses of sedatives or narcotics, so which decrease the responsiveness of respiratory centers to stimulatory effects of carbon dioxide. So ventilation with CPAP at night is usually necessary. As we already discussed, CPAP means here we discussed, right, continuous positive airway pressure. So that CPAP is also suggested for this kind of central sleep apnea people. So next, coming to artificial respiration, we have ventilators for it, the tank which supply oxygen or air, and mechanics for applying intermittent positive pressure, and some machines also have negative pressure, and mask connecting for joining the equipments to an endotracheal tube into the lungs of people during positive pressure cycle of ventilation, and allow airflow passively out of lungs during remainder of cycle. So earlier the ventilators damage lungs due to high positive pressures, but now positive pressures are adjustable, that are set at 12 to 15 water pressure for normal lungs, but sometimes higher for non-compliant lungs. So according to the type of disease in lung, we will set that. So tank respirator, that is also called as siren lung. It has a leather diaphragm. I'll show the diagram. So it is when it is moving inward, it leads to positive pressure development and cause expiration. Or the rate, that positive pressure inward is 0 to plus 5. It's a standard value, and the negative pressure which moves outward cause inspiration. That is 10 to minus 20, then 10 to minus 20 pressure. So air forced by ventilator by positive pressure, or when pressure around the body is decreased by the tank, the pressure in the lung increases, and the flow of blood into the chest and heart from peripheral vein is impeded, it is stopped. So excessive pressure by ventilator or tank have a dangerous effect. It may decrease the cardiac output even to the lethal levels. So continuous exposure more than few minutes to the greater than 30 millimeters of mercury positive pressure in lungs may cause the death because of inadequate venous return to heart. So always remember, if you give ventilation in a wrong way, if you give higher positive pressures, it may decrease the cardiac output, it may decrease the venous return, so it will affect our heart, and also it may lead to death of the patient. So what is oxygen therapy? It is mainly provided to hypoxia people. As oxygen is low, we try to give this therapy. It is mainly placing the head in a tent with fortified oxygen, or provide the pure oxygen, or increase the concentration of oxygen from the mask, or oxygen by intranasal tube. So by any three of this process, we can give this oxygen therapy. Next, let us see what is this hyperbaric oxygen therapy. This is an intense oxidizing properties of increased partial pressure of oxygen is called hyperbaric oxygen. So actually this kind of oxygen is administered at PO2 values of 2 to 3 atmosphere pressure, either by mask or intratracheal tube. So some oxidizing free radicals are responsible for oxygen toxicity, but these are used for even therapeutic benefits. So hyperbaric oxygen is mainly given for the treatment of gas gangrene and bacteria like Clostridium organisms, which grow under anaerobic conditions and stop growing at oxygen pressure greater than 70. And hyperbaric oxygen is frequently used to stop the infections, and it is also used in decompression sickness, arterial gas, decompression sickness. We see it in divers, deep sea divers, and arterial gas embolism, carbon monoxide poisoning, osteomyelitis, and even in the myocardial infarction. So we have completed this last chapter of our respiration. You'll see just some important from our guide and some important diagrams, and you can easily understand. So you can see in emphysema, the lungs are completely destructed because of smoking. How it is destructed, you can see here, and you can see in pneumonia in the normal lungs. It has in pneumonia how the fluid and dead cells debris are accumulated, and you can see in emphysema how the alveolus are constricted. And this you can see here effect of pneumonia on saturation. So the saturation has fallen to 60% in the affected side of the lung, and you can see the atelectasis. You can see this lung is atelectasis, it has collapsed inward, and even here the saturation has fallen to 60%, you can see. And finally we have here the ventilator, and this is a tank respirator. As we talked that this leather diaphragm is moving inward, it is leading to expiration, whereas this leather diaphragm is moving outward, it is leading to inspiration. So when this leather diaphragm is moving inward, it is creating a positive pressure and expiration, whereas this is moving outward means negative pressure and inspiration. So this is how a tank ventilator uses. So this by this we have completed our applied respiratory physiology.